Welcome to Culture Before Content. Culture Before Content, from Music for All and presented by Yamaha. And now, here's your host, David Duarte.
Hey, welcome to the show. We're at the Sweetwater Director Academy at the Bands of America Summer Camp, presented by Yamaha. And speaking about presented by Yamaha and Sweetwater, we have guests today here from Sweetwater. Please welcome to the show. We have Mr. Craig Edgar, who is the institutional sales specialist for Sweetwater, and we just want to get an inside look at what that means to us. Craig, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, David, so much. It's been fantastic being here all week, and I'm so happy to be on the podcast.
Oh my God, this is exciting. And by the way, I will say this. We've been, walking around the hallways here and there, and, just getting to talk to everybody. He said like some magic things to me, like, hey, do you want to look at my microphones? And I'm like that weird person that says, why, yes, I do want to look at those microphones and talk about those microphones. But let's talk a little Sweetwater, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us what does Sweetwater do? What do you do for Sweetwater? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Sweetwater, we are a vendor for basically everything that you need for your program. So we handle any audio or video equipment, live sound, and we've also been we're entering our fourth year of offering band and orchestra instruments as well.
Yeah, I learned about that, earlier today, and I was just kind of fascinated. Matter of fact, that's one of my projects for tonight because I'm a band nerd. Speaking of band nerd, he used to be a band director in Texas. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, and so he's coming from the voice of experience from the world and the language that we all speak, which I think is amazing. But I want to go home. I want to go by a hotel room, and I want to look up all the things that I learned today about Sweetwater and the new system. So, but tell us what your specialty is and such that.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm a former band director. I taught down in Houston, Texas for 10 years before coming to work at Sweetwater. And I work specifically with schools. So whereas a lot of our other sales folks will work with individual people buying, guitars or drum sets and that type of thing, I only work with teachers, principals, and administration and people at the district level. And so what's really cool about that is I am still getting to be connected to the classroom, even though I'm not in it anymore, and still get to speak the language and, be reminded by coming to stuff like this all the time that, at the end of everything that I do, that, kids are benefiting from it. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you said some of the magic words for me because I'm a former administrator, and you said you speak to administrators as well. Can you tell us about some of that experience and how that has worked for you?
Oh, absolutely. So it's really interesting because in the line of work that I do, a lot of times I end up being kind of that connective tissue, sometimes translating between teachers and administrators, and pulling from my experience in the classroom and just some of the things that you pick up along the way as a teacher. You end up with little tips and tricks and things like that for how do we get this to translate in a meaningful way to administrators to be able to get what we need to support our programs.
And so, as an educational specialist, are you assigned to specific areas, specific schools all over the country? How does it work? How does the system work?
Yeah. So I've focused what I do really kind of around Texas, which is where I'm from and where a lot of my existing relationships are. But we have people that are on my team who all work nationally. We all kind of have our own little territories, and really a lot of the members of my team are all former teachers as well. So what's really cool about that is you're not just talking to somebody who knows how to talk to teachers and that type of thing, but you're talking about people who have actually been where you are and know what it feels like to have your budget run out and go, oh gosh, now what do I do? How do I make this concert happen when I don't have X or Y, So it's a really, really cool team, and we're very, very specialized in what we do.
And, do you have any, maybe some anecdotes or stories about, working with teachers or something like some impactful moments that Sweetwater has had?
Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry for the deep question.
Well, one really, really cool time that I had was, I think it's hard to really pick one, but one of my favorite conversations that kind of keeps coming up is when I will talk to people and they'll send me an email or something like that, like through the website. Mm-hmm. And I'll get a little email that says, hey, so and so from this school, they had a question about microphones, or
Hmm.
or hey, how do I get a quote for these instruments, or I need tubas, but I don't know what to buy. And so what happens is it shows up on my end, and I get them a response right away with an introduction, and just really just reaching out, really on not even so much from like a sales level, but just a like teacher to teacher level of like, hey, I heard you. I'd love to help out. Here's what I can do for you. And the amount of response that I get, especially from a like, oh my gosh, there's a real person here, and you responded right away, and you really know what you're talking about. It's fantastic. Like,
I was going to say, right in my recent life, I took my band on a trip, and I was dealing with a charter company, and the neat thing was they didn't really communicate via email. They communicated via text or whichever way you want to. And I found that it was very awesome because, you were so used to the like, oh my gosh, where did I put the email, or where's that piece of paper that I wrote that? Don't write on paper. I'll just lose it. But all of a sudden I felt connected even to, and I want to say 3 or 4 different bus drivers because we were using it as a shuttle as opposed to, but at no point, hey, where am I going to meet you? Oh, I'll be right there. Oh, can you tell me specifically where you are? And it kind of relates to that. Like, I know my example, Sweetwater question will be like, hey, I've got my iPhone and I've got my iPad. I really want to record my band. Is there a good USB-C mic? And that's where I feel like are those the types of questions that you handle? Yeah,
that usually starts to open the door. And then part of what we do is, we don't just, anybody can just send you a box, right? That's anybody. You could go to a brick and mortar store, you can go anywhere else online and just get a box. What I think is really cool, and part of what I really believe in at Sweetwater, is that relationship that we build with you. That you've got somebody who is on the other end, who not only knows the gear and knows how to help you accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, but also has been there. They have been in the trenches, and they know what it's like, to have. We've got a big theater production coming up, and half our mics just went out. And now what do we do? And how can you help? How can you help me?
And that's no joke. and so I'm a band director who's listening to this podcast or hearing us talk for the first time. How would they go about finding this information, or where can they go? Like, did they go on the website?
Yeah, absolutely. Easiest way is to hop on the website. You can call our 800 number. That's 800-222-4700. That'll get you to the Sweetwater main line and get you connected with somebody who will then get you over to my team. Or even if you just have a question and you're really not sure if you've got somebody for your district that is already working with you, or if it's just, hey, I just have a question about, how do I get my audio from my iPhone into my mixer, right? How do I do that? Well, you can type into our chat and it will get you hooked up with.
Oh, there's a chat system built in.
We have chat, and we also have an info request field on the website.
Wow, that's amazing, because I know, like, I think I ordered a mixer board, and then it came, and then I started staring at it because it's like, how do I get that information in there? And that is an extremely amazing point.
And then the next step from that, though, is that you've also got somebody who does know how to use that on the other side, who you can contact at any time to help you through that. And it's really a pretty neat system that we've got to be able to support you.
And if I remember rightly, you have people that are like, pros or industry professionals working in those things. And I think that also is quite amazing, because I think all of us, we all wish we could just look at something, oh, I can use this perfectly. And that doesn't always happen. And no matter how we tried, but it is so nice to think about having a resource or a go-to, or even more so. And I think you hit it on the head, which I hate to say this, culture before content. The relationship is to me the most important thing about getting to know someone, getting to know a company, and comfortable. So anything else on Sweetwater on your mind?
Well, the one of the other things I wanted to hit on was kind of how we contact you as well. You had mentioned it a little bit ago about email and call and text and that type of thing. And part of what we do is we learn how you like to be contacted. So you will, for example, if you're one of my customers, I will never call you during a class, because I've been on the other side of that. I have had, the road rep, knocking on the door, in the middle of my rehearsal, and we're just trying to get something done and, having that type of thing. So, most of my people that I work with, I know the ones that like to be called. I know the people that prefer email or text and that type of thing. And, at the end of it, I know that, your time with your students is more important than anything that you're going to talk to me about. So I'm not going to bother you during your class, and I'm going to make sure that I'm contacting you the way that you want to be contacted.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, our little short talks. Well, let's get on to the show. We got a guest coming up, and I'll see you in a minute. Hey, welcome to the show. My name is David Duarte. I'm the host of Culture Before Content, and we're here live at the Sweetwater Director Academy at the Bands of America Summer Camp presented by Yamaha. And just as a reminder, at Music for All and within the Culture Before Content community, our mission is to create, provide, and expand positively life-changing experiences through music. Well, this is neat for me. We're doing live, other people in the room. This is neat and new. We're doing live podcasts. And today we have Garrett Coffer. He's another DAA, which is a Director Academy assistant. I'll let him explain what that role is. And he is the assistant director at Vincennes Community School Corporation in Indiana. Welcome, Garrett.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
All right, well, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go on to our show topics.
Garrett Coffer, as he gladly introduced, from Vincennes, Indiana, and I'm the associate band director there at Vincennes. Been there for about 8 years. Graduated from the school itself.
Oh, you're like my third person that's taught. I taught at my old high school.
Yes, I went to Indiana State University, so it was very close, and I'm a percussionist, so I came back to teach the drums and stayed around, and then eventually they hired me on to help out with a lot more details, minus the paperwork, because I'm not a paperwork person.
I'll do the paperwork.
Yeah, and so I've been there, and then started. Since I'm a percussionist, IPA, the Indiana Percussion Association, after COVID sent out a thing for the percussion directors to come to Music for All symposium at the time. And I was like, I want to be a part of that. So I filled it out and got it and been here ever since.
Yeah,
So.
neat thing. He was one of my assistants for one of my presentations. Very helpful. Although I don't know about those peacock sounds coming from the hallway.
Oh, yes, there was some clarinets learning some interesting
that was kind
things.
of my surprise of what is that? Oh, it's the clarinets. Anyway, we're talking, we decided what do we want to talk about here on Culture Before Content. We can talk music education, we can talk all the things. But Garrett is a show design person, and that really just sparks, you'll be the first person to talk about show design and what that means to you. So, take it away. Tell us about show design.
For me, for my location, show design is very passionate for me in a way, just because location wise, it's hard for us to kind of get in people. My fascination, of course, came from my drum corps, like I think a lot of people might have. I was a Cavaliers fan. I mean, early 2000s, that was a me thing. I used to watch that on repeat. And being a percussionist, winter drumline seasons kind of got my start in thinking, like, I think I want to design some shows. I tried writing music for the show one year, realized that I should not compose. But I was like, I think I can write drill, and I think I can put some uniforms and some concepts together for the winter seasons. And then from there, I kind of like moved out to a little bit of marching band. I don't do much due to limitations with jobs and other opportunities. But in terms of winter seasons, I kind of jump into that. I think it's very easy to be creative when you're in your own space and working with your own school. You know your students, and you know what they would enjoy and value as a show, what they can and cannot do. So I think for me, it just became one of those things. What can I do to make my students feel successful in an activity that could bring a lot of success and enjoyment for those kids?
And where did you get, because I think we're polar opposites. I think, you don't like paperwork, I'll do the paperwork. You don't want to compose music, I'll compose music. I don't know what's going on here, but we're like two peas in a pod here today. But
I would say ebony and ivory, but some people might.
What would you say helped you learn the world? Because I tried doing show design when I was I'm old, like I was black and white. I'm kidding. It was just it was it was a little long ago. I tried and I failed at it because my brain doesn't understand the concept of what to do next from that standpoint. Whereas, like I said, you get the composition, it just comes. And so, where did you get this? Is it something you always had? Something you built into?
Yes, so my mother would describe it. She knew I was a band person. The first parade I went to and the marching band came across, I wasn't like listening. I was staring at their feet, is what my mom says. But I think when I started watching drum corps shows, I think the first video I saw was 1992. I believe those old VHS tapes, for those who know those are. I watched some of those, but it was just the movement on how things were moving with the music that kind of drew me in. And like I said, I was a fanatic of Cavaliers early 2000s. They used to have a DVD that you could select which section of the chord to follow. So I did the multi, and me being a percussion, I would follow the percussion around. I was like, oh man, that's neat. Then I'd follow the brass, and then I followed the percussion again, then the brass. And then one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to follow the color guard. And I followed the color guard, and I was like, whoa, those people are moving and they're doing some really cool things. I mean, at that point, I was like, this is where like all these concepts of what their part's doing and their part's doing, how does it work? And then listening to the music and why that drill moved this way and why that rifle toss spun that way and why that horn. So when it came for me to designing, there are many publishing companies that you can purchase some music out there. I listen to the music and I literally would just sit there and just listen, fall asleep to it. And then I will see patterns and things just moving until it just became a part of me to say, okay, this is what I think this show could look like, what the uniforms could look like. If I were to use any props or any things, what I would try to have my parents build and just kind of go from there.
Do you have a process for getting started? Do you have like some things you have to think of first before you get started? Do you have to listen to the music 100 times? Do you have to, I mean, how do you put your product together?
I think the first thing I kind of look at first when I listen to music is really what are the kids going to wear? Honestly, I think about like, man, like if the music sounds so like extreme in these places. So like at that point, what is the color going to, what am I listening to in the color scheme of things? So if I hear it harsh, is that going to be that red color with a hint of purple to bring in something? Most publishing things are already titled for you. When I started having people compose for me, I was like, this is my show design. I typically get some things from what I've seen on billboards. I go to bookstores. I don't read much, but I will go to bookstores and read covers of books. And I will write them down or take a picture. I was like, I like the way that front of that book looks like. Oh, that'd be really cool if I had some music that would make it look like this, or that title speaks in a certain way. I know some people can just sit there and just go see a fly on the wall, and all of a sudden they're thinking about something really extreme. But from there, that's when I start saying, here's some uniform ideas. Here's some tarps. I see the tarp looking this way. And then I build in if there's going to be any props along the side of that. So,
my gosh. And so like, what do you tell somebody who's thinking about starting? And do you have any like, this is the things you should concentrate on or start like, or watch these? Like you say, I love Cavaliers early 2000s. I think that's the first time I remember things starting to move really fast.
Yes.
And it just caught me off guard because at that time I had a large marching band at the time, and so much of it, the Cavaliers were making such an impact on the world, even dancing, even movement, everything was going there. But what do you say to the young person out there or someone who wants to get into more of their show design? Do you have any advice, any thoughts?
Don't be afraid to just be a fan first. I think we're all fans, and breaking away from your typical fan base. I'm a percussionist, like I said, so I always watched drums. But then when I started watching guard, I was like, oh. So I started WGI. I would watch winter guard shows because they're playing to a track. It doesn't stop.
Right.
So at that point I was like, oh, so how do I get my show to go from movements, essentially breaking it down and just be a fluid thing. So being a big fan, being a fan of multiple groups, and then not being afraid to just try to reach out. A lot of directors and a lot of designers are not afraid to email and message you back and say, yes, we have these old uniforms you can use, or here's a suggestion, you can try doing it this and that way. People want to help people succeed. So don't be afraid to ask for help.
I love that, because I think too many times we all live in our little silos, and we don't think to reach out. But I always tell people, talk to me, text me, and if anybody has my phone, I'm like, text me 24/7. I'm at least smart enough to know when to shut my stuff off if I'm going to sleep.
Yes.
So you're not bothering me. Text at 3 a.m. I'll get it, and if you don't hear from me, text again. But I love to listen. I love to learn. And I love to share. And really, it's kind of selfish, but I actually learn more than I share.
Yes. Yes, for sure. When we bring in new staff members, we go through our interview process the way we do. And I like to sit there for the first 30 minutes and actually watch them teach. Because then I learn something about their approach. And then if there's something I say, hey, have you ever thought about this? But I'll write down notes from someone who's probably half my age, because they learned something from someone else from another location that I can go, when you leave, I'm going to take that and use that with my kids, because their eyes got big and they go, oh, I understand that.
But isn't that what teaching is? It's something we've learned and shaped into our own to make it successful for us. And if we're not successful at it, either we abandon or modify until we can be successful at it. I was just thinking of all the creative things. What does a good show design impact have on the students?
Ooh, yeah.
Sorry, for the deep question, but that's like.
Show design on the student, like I said earlier, like sometimes you pick for the students that you have. For my location, I started finding out that certain shows just didn't work for us. I did one show for our winter season that was like really deep, and like trying to get the kids to understand that were difficult when you realize that their ages between 14 and 18. With the IPA circuit, when they have their meetings for those people medal, someone brought up the clarification that designers improve, but your students are always going to be 14, 18. So you have to start thinking, you have to start thinking, you're getting older and you're learning all these new things, but here comes...
I'm not getting older. I'm sorry.
No. I've been 39 5 times.
5?
5 times, yes. And so you pick something for those kids that that's going to help them and be successful and buy into it. So when we announce, like for our marching band shows or for our winter drumline shows, we know that these kids are going to be excited because this is that popular music that's out now that's doing it. These different memes, like like that's the thing. But you find what your kids are into, and when I help out with other programs, I ask that same question, like, what do your kids buy into in terms of what do they like in terms of music? Because at the end of the day, if it's something that just very slow and maybe lethargic in the show or too deep, you as a director have to know that they can find a way to make that speak to an audience. And
I always talk about here's my ideas and here's the kids, and you've got to kind of find this magic meeting in the moment. But say if you go too deep, sometimes you're way up here, and it's not moving.
Because I remember sometimes I'd be in ensemble class, and all of a sudden my theory brain kicks out, but my theory 4 advanced brain comes out, and these kids are still trying to figure out what a 16th note is. I'm sorry, my apologies. I went a little.
So what is a 16th?
Yeah, I went a little too far into it. But yeah, finding what they enjoy and they like. And then as the season goes, hide little Easter eggs, I like to call them. Sometimes there's things that they don't know that are still going to be coming in the show. They might know the title. You might give them the resource and the music, what they're going to be, here are the costumes, but you don't tell them about the tag ending that you have that we're going to learn. It's oh, we thought it was done. It's oh no, we're going to learn this one little thing. And now this prop's actually going to be doing this. And all of a sudden their mind's
Yeah, but don't you think that creates that excitement for the kids?
Oh, yes.
And so, like I said, I think we're all looking for buy-in in some type of way, no matter what we do or what we teach. Doesn't matter whether it's, marching band, concert band, jazz band. We're all looking for buy-in because it all speaks to what, and that's kind of you kind of answered my question of how do you involve students in the story? But it seems like you also keep involving the students in the story. And I think that's super important is it's not just, here's Zion, go learn that. Okay, let's perform that. Let's go. Nice season. Thanks for coming. We're done.
Yeah, I remember at Midwest once, there was a guy talking about how you make your kids feel a part of the show. There are some programs you have so many staff members on it that it feels like they're the ones putting in so much of the input. But sometimes these kids have great ideas that if you can listen to and go, hey, we want to do this choreography move. This would be really neat if we can do that. Me being a percussionist, I was always drummers and their stick tricks, and there'll be times where during rehearsals, I walked by and they're doing a trick and I was like, it has to be clean before and after the trick, but you can do the trick. And then I've had tenor players one year during the show split 16ths in it. They didn't ask me about it, and I didn't notice it until like 3 weeks later because like we've been doing it for a while. I was like, so it's just been that clean, and like you just never notice it. It's like, oh, well then go ahead and keep it. You made something work. You put in the effort into it. It's your show.
My friend actually kind of brought that to light. He's also a percussionist, and he said, if you do something and you do it together, it's not wrong.
It's not.
And so why would you try to fix something that already sounds great, both visually and
musically? Yes. Because I used to do that. I used to think that it had to be my product and my product only.
Yeah.
But that's not the case.
That's something for me that came later in life. I used to be so linear that it had to be exactly that perfect thing. And I think that's, even as a band director, that's what used to slow my bands down. I used to rehearse so much that I was never getting into the macro part of it because I was too weird and too micro. And then as soon as I learned to let the micro go and get into more macro, the micros fixed themselves.
It fixed itself. And I used to be the same way. And it was stressful.
It was stressful.
As you go through and the kids can see the stress because you feel like you have this list that you have to take care of. Then you listening to your designers and teams, your staff is a big thing as well. They're creative just as much. I remember having a meeting with my staff and I brought up something. A guy looked at me and goes, "That's dumb." And I was like, "No, it's not." And then I paused for a second and I go, "Wait a minute. Why is it dumb?" And then he explained it to me and I go, "Oh." And my mind changed right there.
And that's the whole thing. We have to feel what we're being told for us to understand. And I think that's another thing that comes with experience over time. Because the other thing that I used to do, and maybe you can talk to this, is you get the recap or the judges' comments. I'm like, well, I did, and then you go to the next show. I fixed that. How come we didn't score any better? It's because it's not about that specific. That's just I call it the ESPN report. I fumbled on the 2-yard line, picked up the ball, and we scored anyway. But okay, well, I fixed it. We fixed that play. No, it's not. That's not what I'm trying to tell you. So I had to learn to let go of the specific comment on the sheet was what I needed to fix to make the show better, so we would score more. And that's not true. It was producing a better product.
And I mean, being in Indiana, we're pretty decent in the marching band and the marching band world itself. And it does get very competitive in a way of like, what do I need to do? And what I found it is you need to water your own garden. That's what you do. When you start worrying about what the other groups are doing, then you're looking at that numbers too harshly and you're looking at what the content's asking for. And it's like, but I'm doing it. It's like, but are you really doing it?
But that goes to that comment though, of that someone, why is it dumb? Sometimes we don't ask the right questions to get the information from the sheet. Okay. I don't care that this happened. What in the show is that really specifying?
Yes.
And once I learned that, oh, look, we scored much better. I don't take those specific marks other than, fix those things.
Yes.
But that's not going to make it score better. That's just going to fix those things. And come on, like 5 times out of 10, that would never happen before. It's just something that happened. One of my favorite things being from Arizona. It was hot that day. And I remember one show was like 125 degrees on the field. Yeah, your intonation was off. I'm like, I teach high school kids and they didn't quite respond to being that it was hot.
Yes.
It was hot. And then the next show was 72 degrees and it never came back. So it was just, I guess, circumstantial. And so, thinking about some of do you have any favorite shows that you've written or like some ones in your brain that you can picture?
I have 2 shows. One show, we ended up winning state for Winter Drumline with this show. And that was the first time I really reached out to multiple designers for that show. And I remember having that Zoom meeting and I was like, I have a group of kids that I know could take it the whole entire way. I was like, so I don't want to do anything in the product other than just making sure it's glued the right way. So someone did the floor design, someone else did the uniform, someone else did the music, and we made that work. And I just remember we got to one point that my level of teaching shifted really fast because the kids were achieving fast because they loved what the show was doing.
How hard is it for you, or is it something that's over time to take input? Because that might be the thing. What advice do you have for people to say, let it in it's not criticism.
Mm-mm.
It's input to grow from and become stronger.
Yes, it takes a lot because you want to think that you are the reason that you're successful.
Oh, I'm not.
You want, I think some young people think it's like, thank you for watching my show. Did you like it? Was it successful? It's not. It's my name's attached to it. Like growing up, my father's like, you only have your name. That's the only thing you can carry with you. So when I started teaching, I was like, oh, only my name's attached to it. And then when I realized for other people, it's like, oh, there are other staff members' names who are attached to it. Let's communicate. Oh, wait a minute. I have a student who came up who's attached to it. Like being open to listen and stepping back, you're going to be less stressful and your cardiologist will thank you for it later.
So, like I said, we're talking about those shows. What, you talked about the design of it, the multiple people, but what makes what makes it memorable?
The kids, in my opinion, I think what makes it memorable when the kids realized that the product was there. That's what makes it memorable. The other show I remember was a show that I found music online, and I just did the whole entire costume, tarp, drew a design and everything, and being one of our highest placements at that point, second place. And I remember just as the season was going, they called us first, and I got caught by surprise because like that wasn't really a great show run for us. And the next show we got first again. I was like, wait a minute, like is this show actually doing something? I've never been in this realm where I've been first,
right?
And that scared me. Because I was like, now I know, I felt like I was being hunted in a way. But I just remember at the end of the run at finals, I left this gym in tears because like, it was like, that was just amazing. And then as they were going through retreat and they're going up the numbers and they said third place and our names wasn't called yet. And they said second. And I'm looking at like drummer boys, drummer men, big in tears crying. And I was like, that was amazing. Like I honestly could care less what happened that season. If there was a bad rehearsal, it went away. So to me, it's really about what the students feel like, and that's a great production.
One of the things I'm super impressed with this conversation is how student focused you are, and I think, do you have any routines for the kids, or like do you have like in rehearsal? Do you have any not traditions, but things that you do to get this kids in the mindset is important. How do you keep your kids in that mindset?
For me, it really just depends on the season. Marching band versus like winter seasons. At contests, I mean, I do a typical like handshake type thing. It's just relax and get them like loose. I let them talk with each other more of anything because it's their show. So for marching season, every section has a totem. So that's a very big thing. And I make sure all underclassmen are involved in the picking or choosing the name of the totems. They also have to have a phrase that's just like specific to them. Like for the percussionists this year, I think if you're not first, you're last because, drummers, being drummers. But like that type of stuff, I think helps build that culture in a sense that they understand each other and what it needs to work with. I've been doing a lot, and honestly, because of Music for All and coming here to these camps, just hearing what other schools are doing, just playing a lot of just building games and just kind of remembering as the season progresses that I can still kind of do that. Like, okay, we've already done band camp. We're already into movement 2. What's the last time we played this game? Just kind of like kill the monotonous. We bring in fire trucks on a Saturday rehearsal after the heat, and we'll just douse the kids down with the fire truck, and they just love it. They're running. We go swimming. We do a swim party, and I try to hide because they like to try to lift me up and throw me into it. But those type of things, I think, helps those kids just buy into music is fun. There's a competition coming up. Okay, we're focused in. Hey, let's do this exercise real quick, but we're going to do this singing it to this song. So then they're dancing, and it kind of like that light switch is just flipping on and off between fun and play.
Are there any advice you have for handing off some of that, the need for the student leadership to go? Did you have any advice for directors out there of how to help, now that you got the show going, you got the rehearsals going, how do you get the student leadership to help out? Or do you have,
My student leadership has been roller coastering here lately because I'm still trying to figure out like the best route for me. And again, I think sometimes at certain locations, certain things work for certain groups, and I'll try something, goes, that didn't play well the way I thought it to be. But student leaders, like I used to have section leaders. And then in our area, eventually some of those kids turned into like, you have to listen to me. And I was like, okay, wait a minute.
Power trips.
So then I was like, let me get rid of that title. Last year I had secret section leaders that I sent them all a private message and go, you cannot divulge this to anyone that you're a leader, because I wanted to see what leading by example would do. It was amazing. I had a kid who, his first year, I said his name a lot during rehearsals, and not really in a good way. And he came up to me, in conversation. He goes, "I really want to be a teacher." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." And I want to be a leader. I'm like, "Okay." And I just had this look. I was like, I'm going to do a secret leader thing. And I put him on it as a secret leader. And like the first day, he was amazing. Day 2, he had like a little tiff thing, and I saw him in the hallway. I was like, "You okay?" He's like, "Yeah." I started getting really angry, but I remembered that I'm a secret leader and I want to try to get better so people will follow what I'm doing. I was like, dude, yeah, that's it. Like leading by that. But getting those student involvements into leadership, I had some kids come to camp this past weekend. It's big. And it becomes difficult depending on their age, but it gets better over time for sure.
All right, Garrett, here's the scary thing. We're already out of time for today. And
oh my God, I can talk forever.
That's kind of my job these days, to talk forever. I'm loving it because, as I say, everyone has a story. I get the best professional development out of doing this podcast because I get a chance to listen, and then I get ideas. And of course, I'll have a billion questions later. But thank you so much for being on the show
Thank you for letting me be on the show. I had so much fun. I should probably do this again.
Yeah, it'd be great. And just a reminder, we're here at the Sweetwater Director Academy at the Bands America Summer Camp, presented by Yamaha. I'm David Duarte, your host, and hope to see you again real soon. Hey, welcome to the show. My name is David Duarte. I'm your host of Culture Before Content, and we're here live at the Sweetwater Director Academy at the Bands America Summer Camp, presented by Yamaha. It's super fun. And just a reminder, at Music for All and within the Culture Before Content community, our mission is to create, provide, and expand positively life-changing experiences through music. Well, we have another special guest here at camp today. Please welcome to the show. We have Stephanie Aarons-Dennison. She's a DAA here this week, which is Director Academy Assistant, right?
Yes.
And there's not it's not directors, it's director. I have to remember these things. And she is the Director of Bands at Centralia High School in Illinois. So please welcome to the show, Stephanie. Yay!
Thank you.
Awesome. You know what's funny? Because I was looking at your Centralia. I live by Centralia. But it's in Washington.
In Washington, yes. There's 3 different Centralias.
I did not know this. So I was like, oh, wow. Does that really say? It's one of the few places in Washington that I've actually judged at. So I was very excited. So anyway, tell us a little bit about you. Maybe, maybe what the things that you do. What do you play? Tell us about your band, to your community.
Oh, man. Where do I start? So I actually teach my alma mater. So I grew up in Centralia. My first job was at Fairfield Community High School, which is even a smaller town. That's about almost an hour from Centralia. I play the flute. During the summer, I've worked for the Boston Crusaders Drum and Bugle Corps on their administration team. And then this is actually my first year here at the Directors Academy.
And you know what? She was the first person that I met at the camp. Did you know that? Like
right when you got off the plane, you told me I only had 3 hours of sleep.
3 hours of sleep. Today we've got 8. So this is a whole new me today. So, but anyway, what's it like being a DAA?
It's been, great. It's, working with the directors here and getting to watch all the clinicians. It's just very inspiring. And, as a teacher, we live to serve our students, but we're serving our community of directors. And I wouldn't be here without Matt Wood.
Oh, Matt Wood, our only 2-time guest on Culture Before Content. And he was just here in the doors. And by the way, I was telling people, I never meet anybody. I meet everyone on the video, but rare is the time I actually get to talk to live people. So it's been a really special week here. But let's talk about a little about your high school. So we were sharing some bonding moments. How big is the city of Centralia?
We're about 13,000. When my parents first moved to Centralia, it was actually around 20,000. So, after so many years, the recession, the decline in population, people moving to cities, it is a small school around between 800, 850 is our population for grades 9 through 12. We are actually, for the high school, it's one school district. So we have 10 different schools that feed into us.
Wow.
Yes, which kind of makes it hard having consistency coming in. But out of those 10 schools that feed into us. We only have maybe like, I would say three programs right now that feed into the high school.
Wow.
that have music programs.
Wow. So, I mean, but, let's talk about making success in a small community.
Mm-hmm.
When I retired and I got the job out in Washington, one of the things that was on my mind was I wanted to go somewhere where I felt I could be needed. Because I feel, I've kind of had my career. So my retirement was to actually go serve a community. And I kind of, when I found it, I wanted to experience what it was like to be in a where you were the only show in town, the only game in town. So like my high school, 950 students in my high school,
Mm-hmm.
fed by 2 middle schools that are fed by 4 total K5s. I have to remember, 4, 5, 6. And the neat thing is it's that the small community makes it so that, you can kind of concentrate the kids. Whereas when I lived in the big city, the kids could have came from anywhere. There wasn't that same thing. What are some of the things that you notice? And you say you're from your community. That's something even way awesome. What's it like for you teaching in a small community?
Well, when I came back to my community, it was my youngest sister who was the one who told me to come back. I taught her for 3 years. And, you never think about teaching. You think about teaching your kids, but teaching your youngest sister, that's a whole different set of ball game there. And when I came back, a lot of people were happy. I took part in my church. I actually sing in the church choir. So giving back to my community that did so much for me growing up is kind of a full circle. I'm the person that, hey, if they need entertainment, they know who to contact. And, sometimes as directors, we're so busy, it's hard to say no. But, giving back to the community just brings really joy to my heart. And the community support that we have is phenomenal.
And what do you think it takes to be successful in a smaller school?
Oh, it takes a lot of hard work, dedication, a lot of time, a lot of support. Communication is the biggest key. And we all know that as teachers, communication is the key to success.
I think communication is just essential. And so, what I do? I actually take time to define communication with my students, with my parents, because I talk a lot about this in the small community. I don't know if you get this. This is what we can play. Like, we can play the game of like, hey, do you have this? Do you have this? For me, I had to learn this. I had to learn trust. I trust that my students are always going to show up. And they do, but they don't make you feel like it. Like, cause they just assume that they've got the information. They're not gonna reiterate or come back or like, hey, I need 10 people coming to this thing. And are you coming? Yeah, I haven't heard from anybody. Oh my God, I hope they show up. I'll send out a reminder. Haven't heard from any. They always show up. Always show up. So I define, and so this is where I define it between information and communication. I want your opinion on this. I define information as it goes one way. It comes from me to them or for them to me, but there's no check for understanding. So it's just the information. And that's where I have learned I have to thrive at information from my community, because communication isn't going to happen the way I think it is. Communication is I send something out and it comes back in a loop. So in other words, it goes full circle. There's an understanding, or at least I've got response. And, I've learned that the communication, I'll send out the newsletter. I've learned that the better I send information, the less communication I have, but the more success I'm kind of getting in terms of them being there. So does your community communicate well with you in terms of like, coming back to you, or is it a lot of information going out and they're good at it?
I think our community does well. We have a local newspaper, the Sentinel, and anytime there's a band event or something going on in the community, they're always covering the program in there, and that's great. Having pictures of the program. We just went to Disney, marched in the Disney parade down Main Street, and they did a well-written article on that. We won we were recipient of the Music for All Advocacy and Action Award, and they did a whole front page article of the band there. I've been asked to come to different organizations in our group to speak about the band program. And so that's great to see that people and organizations in our community are always asking about the band program. I'm part of other organizations in our community. So, like our Business of Professional Women group, they're always asking about the band. And so we have so much support in return. Every year we do a sponsorship program for our band program. And the number of sponsors that we have supporting the band program, and I lose count. It's like over 100. It's like so many people and so many businesses. So, and we're always, we have our social media platforms and we're communicating about what's going on with the band. Sometimes, I'm out. I don't live in Centralia. I actually live outside of Centralia because my husband is also a band director and he drives 30 minutes the opposite direction. And I drive 30 minutes the opposite direction. So we live somewhere.
In the middle.
Yes. So when I am in town, they're like, "Oh, you're the band director." And it's like, yes. And then I heard the band practicing, I live in the neighborhood right behind the high school. And it's just great to know that, people know who I am. And we also, our band got to perform at the state basketball tournament and you had to audition for that. And that's the first time our program has ever been selected to perform at that state tournament. And so we had a lot of coverage about that. So it's a lot of experiences this past year, especially that my students have been able to be part of. And I think this past year, our community has been greatly involved and interested in what's going on at in the music program.
That's great. How long have you been at the high school now?
I'm going to be going into my 9th year. Yes. Time flies.
I know. I'm going into my 5th year and I still feel like I'm just getting my feet wet. Let me ask you this question then. What would you tell yourself? Are there anything you would do different now that you've kind of experienced it? And for me, by the way, I also started my first job at my high school, and it was very different to come home because all the teachers when I came there viewed me as the student version of me and not the teacher. By the time I left, we were fine. But when I got stopped in the hallway for a pass once when I first started teaching. But
yes,
I was thinking to myself, what would you tell yourself now, or are there any things that you would do different now? What has experience taught you is really what I'm asking.
I think about this a lot about where I am today, and it wouldn't be because of the people who have inspired me. So actually, if I have time, I can tell you my story of how this is a full circle. When I was little, the actually retired band director of Centralia, Marie Allen, she came up to my dad and asked, "Hey, I want to teach piano lessons to your daughter." And so she took me on as a student. And then when I picked up the flute, her husband, Elza Allen, was a retired junior high band director in Centralia. So they were like the team duo back in the day. And then so they just gave me lessons. Well, they had 3 boys. So they were actually either band directors or in the music. So they kind of took me on as like a daughter or granddaughter, and they actually purchased me my next step up flute. And so she started being my accompanist at solo contests and took me to my my college audition. And I think because of her, I knew I want to go into music. I want to be just like her, inspire kids. And so full circle, my high school band director, he actually left during my junior year of high school. And, that relationship you build with those directors, we're all crying. You don't find that a lot with other teachers that build those relationships. They say they're leaving. You don't see a lot of students crying because they're leaving. And that's just kind of the relationship you build as music teachers. Well, I guess he ended up teaching at a school close by, and I got to student teach with him. And then so an opportunity came back to come back to my community. I think it wasn't till my sister was she wrote me 30 reasons why you need to come back to Centralia. And it just really hit me. It was hard to leave that first school. It was a small school, and I built a great connection with that school too. And then here I am at Centralia, and, it was weird at first coming in and teaching back in your hometown. And then as we grew, it just became natural, get used to things like, oh, okay, this is how we did it when I was in high school, and then building that culture. But there was experiences like Bands of America. I did not know what Bands of America was in high school. So I felt like I got a late start to this whole other world of band until I went to college. And so now I'm introducing my students to this whole new world of band, Music for All, Bands of America. We went to our first Bands of America competition 2 years ago. I went to the St. Louis Regional. And I was nervous. I'm like, okay, I go to Grand Aunts every year with my friend and we make a whole weekend of it. And, James Stevens, I get that email, see you at the gate. And so I'm like, I email back. I'm like, I'm super nervous about Bands of America. This is our first time going to this event. And then he was just like, meet me there. I'm going to walk you through everything. And, I started talking to him and I was telling him, my first experience at Bands of America event was actually the Future Music Educator Seminar that they put on. And I did that. I saw that ad, signed up. I was the only one from my college that went. And I thought that was such an eye-opening experience. Like, this is what Bands of America is. And so fast forward over, I'm taking my band to the first Bands of America event. They loved it. They loved performing in the Dome. And then last year I was like, okay, let's try Lucas Oil. We're going to travel a little further more. And that was even more eye-opening because you're in the room where it happens.
Yeah.
And I think when they first, I was, you tell the students like, hey, this is a big stadium. And as much as you tell them, you've got to play up to the press box. You got to play up to where the judges are. When they run on that field and they look up, you can see their eyes go, oh my gosh, like she wasn't kidding. Like, this is such a large stadium, but such a wonderful experience. And I think, with Music for All, I've had nothing but great experiences with them.
What do you say to the director out there who wants to get involved with Music for All? You found we've all find our journey to getting, and so what do you say to the director out there who might not know that this even exists as something to look to, because I'm meeting all the, DAAs here at the camp. I'm meeting everyone. And, in my short time that, this podcast is 15, 16 months old, it's just Bands of America, Music for All. It's just been amazing. And what I find is I see the National Concert Band Festival and I'm enamored. I see the National Jazz, I'm enamored. I see all the honor bands, I'm enamored. And I'm meeting all directors who have experienced it all, or people who are wanting to do service. Because I think that is an important part of us as band directors, is we're always we're doing our job as the band director, but then we want to give back to the community. So, do you have any thoughts on the giving back to the community, or getting involved as a director?
I mean, it's never too late to come to camp. This is my first year, and after 10 years of teaching, I think everyone, if you see an ad that says something about, a director camp or something professional, just come and do it. Make the time and do it. And I don't think you'll regret it. This has been such a refreshing, or maybe a restart for some people, making connections, because, in the band world, we say it's a small world, but even the band world, it's a smaller world. Yes.
Band world is small.
And, as teachers, there's no one way of doing it. We all learn something from each other. It's man, maybe I should try that with my students and see how that goes. So it's always, by trial and error.
Well, I can honestly say, I don't think I have one original idea in my teaching. I think I have learned everything from watching somebody else and morphing it to what makes it work for me. My warm-up process, all of those things are just something that I've learned and something that I borrow. And what I love about this kind of weekend, or this kind of week, I should say, is I listen and I learn. I might not say it out loud, but I'm constantly just kind of I'm going to take that with me and put that in my arsenal. So you also mentioned you had worked with the Boston Crusaders. Has any of that helped you with your teaching? I know you said you worked in the office. Maybe talk, is there any of that management skills transfer over, or even just being around the corps? What has transferred from there?
So every corps you can sign up to be an internship or assistants. I never marched drum corps.
That flute section, and some of them are just, wow, I'm kidding.
I was close to auditioning for being a conductor, but, sometimes when it comes to money and everything, I never got that chance to be able to do that. But it was one of my friends, she said, hey, you can sign up as an intern. they have internships available. So I took up that offer and I was taking on this internship, and then they kept asking me to come back. It's basically the assistant position is taking care of the core. Just like here, we're taking care of all the directors. It's a whole new ball game for a drum corps. You're taking care of about 250 people on the road. And they say if you can take care of a drum corps, you can take care of your band. And it's all the organizational skills that are needed behind all the logistics that are needed behind to run a program. So I learned a lot from that. And again, it's all about the relationships. Like that's how I met Matt Wood from Boston. So meeting people.
Everyone should meet Matt Wood. I'm just throwing that out.
Yes, they should. And it's all even other directors that work for Boston, being able to spin off ideas from them and actually going out to see other directors across the United States and looking at watching their band programs if they're coming out, meeting their students. Also, I liked looking at everyone's band rooms when we were on tour. I'm like, man, I need that in my band room. So that was another thing I enjoyed about being on tour and what I learned from being on the administration staff for Boston.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your program. So, like I said, I'm still fascinated that we teach. You teach in a town, a smaller town, because I think that comes with some challenges and some gifts. And maybe that's if your kids were to describe the band program at Centralia, what would they say? What would be their words, so to speak, to describe your program?
As I tell the kids, every time they come in, we are one band, one sound. So we do everything from May to October, marching band. And then after that, we switch to concert band mode. And then our town is big on basketball. Our mascot is called the Orphans, but we are not called the Marching Orphans for our marching band. We're actually a marching showcase. And then, so we have the pep band. And then I do have a jazz band. We do jazz auditions, jazz band auditions, and that is an extracurricular band that meets twice a week after school. We also have a AP Music Theory program, and I love teaching the AP Music Theory. I'm also a dual credit instructor, so students can get dual credit, college credit for music appreciation class and music fundamentals class. I also have a rock band.
Wow.
Yes. And my band and percussion meet separately. So I can actually meet with the percussion. We get to focus on those percussion techniques and do percussion ensemble things rather than them being a distraction in the back of the classroom.
Oh my God. Let's talk about that AP theory class. Because, it's neat to see you have a small school, but you still have an AP theory class. I know large schools that are competing and they're struggling. How did you, the AP, is that something that was already in place? Is that something you got put through?
When I was in high school, we didn't have AP. But we did have music theory. So actually, when I started, they're like, hey, we're starting AP Music Theory, and you're going to have to teach it. I'm like, okay, I've never taught AP Music Theory, but I love music theory. And then they sent me to a clinic session about teaching AP Music Theory and about the test. And so it's kind of learning as you go and creating my whole curriculum. So as I learn, I now have like a binder like this thick to kind of walk through everything to get through everything you need to for the AP Music Theory test. But one of the things I did integrate in our theory class is a composition project. So all my students know, and it's a small class actually, about, a handful. Like I know some schools, they cap it. You have to have like at least 10 kids sign up for your class to make this class meet. But our school is really good. They don't care about the class size. So if I have 2, 3, that's fine. They're still getting that education. And for the composition contest, what we do, I made it a contest. In the end, we talk about how to write for certain instruments. And I do get some choir kids who are like, I never learned an instrument. I'm like, well, this is actually where you're going to learn. And I think that's best for, even if you're a choir kid, you're going to learn about the band world too. And, and the band kids are going to do more sight singing, which is something you still need to do. If you play an instrument, you're still going to sing. But the composition project is basically, I cap it at a minute at least. Like it can be original music, it can be arranged. And we turn it into a contest where I have the band listen to each project and they get to vote. Which one would you like to play? And so the students get to choose. Okay, they're going to vote which one they want to play. And at our spring concert, we actually premiere that piece.
That's awesome.
So they get to hear their piece live. The parents get to hear their piece live. And I give them the option, do you want to conduct it or do you want me to conduct it? And they're like, what? Conduct it? And so I throw in a little bit, okay, this is how you conduct. So they get all that kind of experience in the AP Music Theory class. And now we're trying to integrate more technology using keyboards to compose your piece, different music programs, and our technology guy that they just hired to integrate more technology in our classes been working with me like, hey, what can we do to serve you and your students?
Give me a piano lab. I'm kidding, but give me a piano lab.
Actually, we do have so the choir teacher, she actually teaches piano, beginning guitar. She's got 3 different choirs, and she teaches a music history class. So for a small school, we offer a lot of music electives.
That's amazing. And this might be a hot take. I'm not sure. I love the hot takes, but I will say this because I think this is true. When you're at a small school or a smaller school, those class sizes are a little bit different just because of how the students work out. And that might be actually one of those gifts of being at the small school. And then you said you had the dual credit. How did you get the dual credit class? Is that something that also was in place, or is that something that you got to
So we
explore?
have a local college, Kaskaskia College, and they work with our high school and the surrounding high schools on offering dual credit, but you have to have your master's. So I guess I forgot to mention, I did my bachelor's at Eastern Illinois University, and I did my master's at the University of Illinois.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, here's the scary part. We've already run out of time for today.
It does go by fast.
It goes so fast. And I want to know so much. I'm an inquisitive person. I can't help it. I love hearing it. But I mean, it sounds like you're doing some amazingly great things. And you've just been so helpful. And it's been great to have you here and meet you here. But, here we are at the Sweetwater Director Academy at the Bands America Summer Camp presented by Yamaha. I'm David Duarte, your host of Culture Before Content. I don't even know if that was right. Culture Before Content. And I hope to see you next time.